It is possible that most of you have some form of nativity scene within your homes. I know that we do here, and it's something that we do at Christmas Day. Is we really contemplate upon the birth of Jesus in that nativity scene, that setting, the setting of Mary and Joseph, the shepherds, and the three wise men who have yet to come. I get you, but most scenes have got that, so you have the whole story. But really reflect upon this day of Jesus' coming into the world. And that's what we've been doing these 5 at 5 over this last week. The miraculous conception, the incarnation, the made flesh that Jesus is in his birth that we celebrate today. The role of his humanity, that he's sinless, that his human nature isn't distorted, but then also isn't taken away from his deity. And then the role of prophet. Now we're looking at the threefold offices of Jesus, the role of prophet, as we discussed yesterday. And it's really apt that today we're going to look at the role of the priest, or the priest, or as is stated, the high priest. Now, importantly, Jesus never actually stated that he never gave that title to himself, the great high priest. But the book of Hebrews, which actually is the go-to book in the New Testament when we look at this particular office and the role that the priests played within both the Old Testament way of celebrating, or the way of being some form of mediator, and then the New Testament link that the book of Hebrews makes to that role and what the priest plays. And I'd like us to go together to the book of Hebrews, which we will do twice in this 5 at 5s this week, and particularly to chapter 4, verse 14. Now, to really understand the book of Hebrews, the author of Hebrews' intent when it comes to the priesthood, the big chapter is chapter 5. But I want you to just take this final part, when I really look at this final part of 4 and in verse 14. Since then, we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. And what the author of Hebrews is saying there is that in Jesus' office as high priest, we've been given the final mediator, the great representative that stands before the throne of God, that stands and offers the final sacrifice for our sins. Remember, that was the role of the Old Testament priests. The Old Testament priests were distinctive in who they were, set apart in who they were, in order to be a representative of their people before God. In the temple days, those priests performed significant functions and at given times would enter the Holy of Holies, where they were allowed to give that sacrifice. Now, even the most observant and the most religious of Jews would have understood that this sacrifice is a temporary fix. And here within Jesus' sacrifice, that is an important link to make on the day of his birth to the day of his resurrection, what the birth is compared to the resurrection. When we really put that link together, we understand that it is the final sacrifice. It is the final appeasement of God's wrath. And Jesus gives us that role as the high priest. His function, his beauty, his majesty, his magnificence all come into play on this wonderful day of his birth as he celebrates the perfect lamb, the lamb that was born in a stable, the lamb that is unblemished, the lamb that can never be touched, the lamb that is without sin, the final priest that stands before God and offers the sins of his sacrifice so that God's wrath of sin, God's wrath of rebellion, God's wrath of a desire to be like God is taken away by the only person who can make that statement, because he is God. It's very powerful. It's very powerful when we really put it together, that actually in this Jesus, this child born today, you have a lamb whose blood will make us whole and will give us the ability to stand before God and receive God's grace, receive God's forgiveness, receive God's love, receive God's cleaning, receive God's forgiveness receive God's justification. And I really like that link comes on today, this final priest. Those of you that have studied Hebrews, go back today and look at Hebrews from a different perspective. That actually here we have now, through the birth of this child, we have that opportunity to be made right and made whole with God. Really, a Merry Christmas indeed, right? A real Merry Christmas indeed of why we should be celebrating this beautiful day. And so I say to you and your family, Merry Christmas. And I really look forward to seeing you all on Sunday as we look to celebrate this season as we then head into a new year. But for today, enjoy, have fun this evening, enjoy time with your family. A very Merry Christmas.